Testing, 1, 2, 3, testing. Ruth, can you hear me?
I sure can. Can you hear me?
No, I can't hear you.
Crap.
Can you hear?
Microphone. Hello?
Is that all right? You happy enough? It's all right. The boys are just looking to test something here, Ruth. They're happy enough.
Oh, can they hear me okay?
ready to go live, please? Thank you. Okay, we're now going live, members, and good evening and welcome to another council meeting. You've all received your opening announcements. I don't have any apologies. Any apologies from the floor, members? No. Okay, I don't see any hands up. Okay. Members, agenda item number 2, could I have a proposer and a seconder to the accuracy of the council minutes from the 25th of September? Proposer, please. Thank you, Alderman Moutry, and seconded by Councillor Hockian. Thank you. Members, are we any issues? All agreed? Agreed. Thank you. Agenda item 2.2, minutes of the special council meeting held last Monday night, the 16th of October. Could I have a proposer and seconder for the accuracy of the minutes, please? Councillor Hare, thank you. Councillor Hare, were you in for the whole of the meeting? I think you came in a little bit late, so I'll maybe just get another proposer. Thank you, Councillor O'Dowd, and a seconder. Thank you, Councillor Armstrong. Members, just checking that there's no other issues from that. No, all good. Okay, thank you. Members, declarations of interest. I can take requests from the floor as and each point arises. Tonight, agenda item number 4, presentation. We're delighted to receive a presentation from DFI Roads on their annual report. They were also delighted to hear that the 10 minutes is their maximum time. So I'm not sure who's taking the report, taking us through, because we actually have Colin Woods. If you just indicate by when I call your name, Colin Woods is the Deputy Secretary from DFI. Mark McPeak. Mark, welcome, the Divisional Roads Manager. Kieran McKenna is the Section Engineer for the Armagh area, and Brendan Coleman, the Deputy Section Engineer for the Armagh area. So may I ask? It's going to be Mark. Okay. Mark, if you just hit your...
Thank you, Chair, for this opportunity to present the DFI Roads annual report. My name is Mark McPeak, and I'm the Divisional Roads Manager for Southern Division. As you've said, also with me is Colin Woods, the Department's Roads Deputy Secretary, and Kieran McKenna, who is the Section Engineer for Armagh. Brendan Coleman is not able to make it tonight, so I send his apologies. I hope you have received a copy of the annual report, which shows the work we completed last year and our programme for this year. In June 2023, the Secretary of State provided all Northern Ireland departments with their budgets for the 23-24 year. Regrettably, we are facing an extremely challenging year with a reduction of 14% in resource budget. Despite every effort to reduce spending, there still remains a significant funding gap. This is impacting on our ability to cover costs associated with day-to-day road maintenance work, like fixing potholes, traffic lights, road markings, gully cleaning, and so on. However, we are still continuing with our limited service policy, which means we are only repairing the highest priority defects, that being the deepest potholes on roads that carry the most traffic. To be clear, we don't do this because we want to or because we think it's good engineering practice. We do it solely because we do not have the money to do any more. For a number of years, funding for road maintenance has been far below the level required to maintain the structural integrity of the road network. Since 2014, it is estimated that the investment gap in essential maintenance is approximately 1 billion. As a result of this underfunding, regrettably, roads are gradually deteriorating. This year's opening capital budget for structural maintenance is 85 million, which is welcomed, but still falls well short of a previous annual requirement figure of 143 million, and in today's figures is closer to 200 million. To maintain the road network in a reasonable condition, following legal challenges for the award of resurfacing contracts in 2021, we successfully procured 2 term contracts for the council area, the Armagh area in September 22 and the Banbridge and Craigavon areas in March 2023. We focused resurfacing work in the Armagh area during the latter part of last year, and progress is now being made to deliver much needed resurfacing across the council area. We are also mindful that rising construction prices means we get less resurfacing for the same money than in previous years, and will of course continue to take every opportunity to bid for capital funding during the year to maximise the use of these new contracts. We also have some capital budget for local transport safety measures. This allows us to deliver a programme of local improvements, including collision remedial measures, traffic calming, and pedestrian crossings. However, our capacity to deliver this programme is less than what we would like, so we do need to prioritise those schemes that are in most need. We removed Moylan Footbridge in March 2023 due to its poor condition, but work is now underway to take forward the design of a replacement footbridge at the same location. Taking the scheme forward to procurement will be subject to having the statutory processes and funding in place. The department has recently published a list of priority major projects and is based on a challenging budget position, constrained resources, and commitments to the Climate Change Act. The A1 upgrade project is identified within the prioritised list as a scheme which will continue to progress towards the next key decision on procurement. Preparation of the contract documents is currently continuing. Once completed, the taking forward of the project will be informed by the department's emerging transport plans, the business case approval, and decision by the empowered decision maker. We remain fully committed to the delivery of the A1 project because of the important road safety benefits it will deliver. The department hopes to publish a transport strategy later this year that will inform the planning and delivery of transport infrastructure across Northern Ireland up to 2035. This strategy aims to align transport infrastructure with the requirements of climate change and legal obligations to deliver net zero by 2050. It will describe how active travel and improved public transport can enhance the function of the transport network. The decarbonisation of transport is likely to be the single largest strategic driver of our work over the next decade, which the strategy will aim to support. The requirement of the Climate Change Act has facilitated the provision of capital funding to invest into active travel schemes to encourage walking, wheeling and cycling. The department has commissioned a Northern Ireland-wide active travel network delivery plan, which is due for consultation in 2024, which when complete will provide a basis for the prioritisation of active travel schemes. We are geared up for the gridding season, which starts now in October and extends to April. In the council area, we have a fleet of 10 gridders to salt 948 kilometres of main roads. Across Southern Division, it takes nearly 4 hours to complete one gridding action, and we have a total of 135 personnel involved throughout the winter season. Finally, we are keen to engage with elected representatives. However, we are facing significant staffing pressures. We do need to focus our attention on the delivery of key services and public safety issues in the first instance. I have included contact details on the back of the report for each of our teams. I would add that to maximise the effectiveness, I would encourage councillors and the public to report road defects using our online service rather than emailing us directly, as it will log defects directly under our system. As you know, a clinic was held before this meeting, and there was an opportunity to ask specific questions about the road network. That concludes my presentation, and I am happy to take any strategic questions.
Thank you, Mark, and I appreciate the I appreciate the brevity and everything. So, because I know that no matter how long you speak for, the members will still come in and ask many questions. First of all, can I just say that the active travel scheme, that's excellent news to residents in the rural Carbet Road area where that's something we want to be seeing develop there. So I welcome that as well. So Councillor McClelland, your light was on 30 seconds into that presentation, so you must be ready to roll.
Indeed, Lord Mayor. Indeed, Lord Mayor, thank you for letting me in on. I thought it was actually slightly sooner than 30 seconds, but anyway, no, it's good to welcome you here, Mark, with your colleagues this evening, and I think it's perhaps the third time in maybe the last 4 to 5 weeks that we have met. So it's good that there is the interaction and so on. That's to be very welcomed. The other thing I would say, I think we are, whichever members were here earlier, found the clinic before this meeting very useful. So thank you for that. I'm on a wee bit of a roll here in terms of thanking DFI, but credit where credit's due, and within my own Lagan River DEA, it's good to see resurfacing happening on Rathfriland Road and on Town Road. So that's all very welcome, and hopefully there will be more roads to come. In terms of two, I have one substantive question and one comment. In your report, Mark, table 46 talks about public liability claims, and that you've received 429 of them and total settled 221. Forgive me if I missed it, but I didn't see a total in terms of how much taxpayers' money that had cost. Now, if I missed it in the report, okay, but I didn't see a total. Could you shed some light on that? Could you give your opinion as to whether that is good value for money or not? And then I must say, when I was reading the report earlier on page 5, it's a one-liner. At present, a full street lighting repair service continues during 2023-24. Mark, that mustn't have extended to my constituent, Whitney Bingham, on Catesbridge Road. But anyway, I suspect we'll not make much progress on that this evening, but it did raise a wry smile, I would have to say. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
All right. Thank you, Councillor McClelland. Mark, is it yourself wants to come in on that one? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Regarding public liability claims, yes, a third have been settled. You're correct. It's the value of those claims is not in the report, and it's not in the report because I don't know the answer, but I can find out the answer. Now, a couple of years ago, there was a report that reflected on a similar number of claims that were settled, and it amounted to 250,000. But again, I don't know what the value is for those, but we can find out. Is it good value for money? We would prefer to see no claims being made against the department, but that would require us to be able to fix, to have a high standard of road network to prevent any claims to be actually made. That's the position we would like to get to, but regrettably, with the resources and the funding commitments that we've got at the moment, that's not the position we're currently in. In terms of street lighting repair service, the report of fault service online is the opportunity to report any defects straight into the operational model operating system, and we'll pick up on those defects and fix the defect if it's our street light, basically. So, and we don't carry out street light inspections, but if you log the defect, we'll pick it up and we'll get it looked into.
Are you looking to come back briefly, Councillor McClelland? Okay.
Yes, Lord Mayor, thank you for indulging me, and I would certainly appreciate, as I'm sure other members would, getting a figure on the public liability. And I think, as Mark perhaps knows, because I've raised it with him before, the street lighting issue that I raised with him was not a straight repair, simple thing, but I just wanted to make that completely clear. But thank you, Mark, and thank you, Lord Mayor.
Okay. I'm going to call Alderman Greenfield in next, but just on that point, Mark, if you're issuing that to Councillor McClelland, I would imagine all of the councillors in the chamber tonight would be interested in that. And if that was possible, I'm not sure how that can be broken down, but if that could be broken down per DEA, as in, the Craigavon, the Portadown, the Armagh, Banbridge. But sure, we'll see. I'll leave it with you, sure, whatever way that can be reported back to members, it would be appreciated. Okay.
Lord
Do you want to
Mayor.
come in? Sorry, okay, hold on.
Thank you. Just for information, at a departmental level, we've set aside £9 million this year for public liability claims. Now, that's not £9 million of claims that are arising this year. It's the point at which claims need to be settled or paid out as a result of court judgments. And that's across the whole of the network, not just in this council area. The other point I would make is that there's a disproportionately large amount of that money goes on a small number of high value personal injury claims. As councillors may recall, the regime around personal injury claims has changed over the last few years to increase the value of those claims. And so as a result of judgments and of settlement advice from our legal advisors, that accounts for the large majority of the 9 million.
Okay, thank you. Alderman Greenfield.
Thank you, Lord Mayor, and thank you once again for your report tonight, coming in, and it was certainly valuable to be talking to some of the staff beforehand. We thank you for doing that, and good to hear the recommitment again that we are still committed to the A1 project, which is something that's been going on for a long time and has received a lot of focus recently. Great to hear that we're still committed, that we obviously, as ones that represent that area, know too well the cost that has been to a lot of people in that area, and we want to keep the focus on that. It is also good to read down the report and see some of the roads that we have. We always are looking at certain roads done, but sometimes it's good to remind ourselves how many have been done. We thank you for that work's going on. But if I just highlight one thing there, and it's in page 21 about Scarborough Street Junction, and we're saying about it being completed. This would still cause an awful lot of issues in Banbridge with the timing and the sequence of the lights. I think I did raise this the last time maybe we were speaking to yourselves, and there's something that it took so long to settle in, and there's different issues with it. But certainly from traders' point of view in the town and those using it, there still seems to be a major issue around that, where now the traffic is still quite often queued right back across the Cut and Banbridge and right across, blocking up the whole town. So it's something I would like to see highlighted again, that we could look at that, or a commitment to look at that, because it's certainly something that we come across quite often, people contacting ourselves. I'm not sure of how it all works, but I think the last time we were told there's some sensors and it programs it, and then something about lorries were double parking and it was messing up. But this seems to be quite an issue still, quite a long time after. And it's a shame after such a lot of work that's been in there that we're actually causing a lot of issues on. So I'm not sure if that can be looked into and someone could see what can be done on that. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Do you want to make me come? Okay, Mark.
Yes, thank you. I remember that was raised previously, and there is a bedding in period for traffic lights and sensors to bed in to manage queues effectively. But I'll pick up with the traffic team and raise it again with them to do a bit of investigation.
That'll be appreciated, Mark. Thank you. Councillor Alexander.
Thank you, Lord Mayor, and thank you to Mark. Welcome back. Just a very quick question for me on the Moylan footbridge. I'd be keen to get a bit of a sort of indicative timeline, but you mentioned that there was a statutory process. I'm just wondering, how long do those typically take, and are there any blocklers with this specific request?
Yes, thank you. Statutory processes, I really referring to planning. So we have engaged with the officials in terms of planning. We've had a meeting with them and we're planning to meet them pretty soon. So we're going to table an indicative shape of bridge, for example, and that will allow our planning application to go in for the bridge. I have a procurement slot next February, March to put a tender out, but that's obviously subject, as I've said, statutory processes of getting planning approval, land, and importantly funding. The important aspect of that is I would need to get funding clearance in advance of the following financial year to be able to allow that procurement. So there's a number of hurdles just to get over, but I think clearly the intention here is to go ahead with the scheme. I think I have sufficient information to put a business case together. It's a strategic link to the National Cycle Network. We've clarified that. So I'm committed to get that bridge back up again.
Councillor Ferguson, are you coming back with a follow-up question, or is it because Councillor Ferguson or Alexander? And I'll call you in. There's just a few speakers in front of you, Councillor Ferguson, or is it on the same point? Right, okay, there's a few speakers in front of you then, so I'll call you back in again, okay? Thank you. Councillor Duffy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you for your report. And I want to thank you, for all the work you have done in my area, street lighting, some rural country roads and such like. But my issue is in and around footpaths. Not everybody uses the roads, but everybody uses a footpath at some stage or another. And a lot of the big estates in Portadown, the footpaths they're in terrible condition. They're just, to put it bluntly, and myself in a number of areas from Craigavon days have raised issue after issue on footpaths. When you had staff, it wasn't done. And still now today, when you have no money and no staff, it just doesn't look like it would ever done. And with an aging population, needing drop curbs, needing the flagstones levelled out. I know 1 year it was you had gas in, that was an excuse. The next year you had a Virgin Media in. Now, my question would be, when all these different groups come in and they're lifting all the footpaths in the areas, could you not come to an agreement with them to actually fix them when they're there?
Thank you. We do have a set of standards that requires utilities to replace their instatements, their utility instatements, and they should be doing that to a standard that that's suitable and provides safe passage for pedestrians. Do we have an arrangement with utilities to work together? No, we don't. But what we do have is an ambition to actually try and, because of potentially active travel monies, potentially footway replacement monies, to try and identify those footways which are needing resurfaced. So there's an extensive programme of footway resurfacing across the council area. So there is an ambition to actually try and do that. But again, we're limited to funding. We're also currently looking at potentially utilising active travel monies to try and maximise the use of that money to help walking, wheeling and cycling right across the division and this council area. So I think we have an ambition to get the condition of footways into a much better condition. But we're limited to the money, we're limited to the resources we've got, and of course limited to the contracts we have also. Now we do have a new small scale contract about to be awarded that comes into play in November. Up to that point, we've been pretty restricted because of the use of the previous contract, because of limits. So I'd like to see a lot more work done on footways across this council area to try and put them in better condition.
Thank you, Mark. Okay, members, I have 5 more speakers. Now, I can take everybody and I can take another 5 if you want, but you have had time at the clinic to raise all of these issues. You have the report. What I am suggesting is that I'm going to call you in, but try to keep your comments brief, because whenever you're not speaking, the rest are nearly falling asleep. So all I'm saying to you is try to keep it moving, try to keep it brief, and I'll call you in now, Councillor O'Dowd.
Thank you, Chair. The only question I would have would be is how long does it take to get a straight answer from DFI on anything? Because you put in a request, you follow the rules, which you're supposed to do, you get a reference number, and then you get somebody assigned to that, you try to contact them, you try to chase up on it, and there's no response, no nothing.
Look, I can appreciate the frustration that can come whenever you feel that it's hard to get answers, and you know, on behalf of the department, we recognise the really valuable role that you play in terms of bringing issues to our attention. We would love to be in a position to have sort of high level of responsive service that I know you would prefer us to be able to offer. Unfortunately, as you might be aware, we have a significant vacancy issue in the department. So within my group, we have about 450 vacant posts, and that's between 25 and 30% of all posts. And what that has forced us to do is unfortunately prioritise work on things like public safety and the fulfilment of statutory duties. And one of the things that suffers is our ability to be as responsive as we would like. So we've tried to do some things to improve that in terms of improving the portal that we put online for the reporting of defects. What that does with a defect is it puts it straight into the workflow for the next carriageway inspection. That inspection may not come for 6 or 8 weeks, so it can take time for that to happen. I mean, I can tell that you're not happy with my answer, but and I'm happy to discuss this further. But unfortunately, you know, when I'm looking at having insufficient staff to deliver what the law requires, forcing ourselves to prioritize the functions that the law demands of us squeezes out other activity that we deem equally valuable, but that we have to prioritize the duties that we have under the various legal obligations. And say, I know that Mark and the team are constantly trying to prioritize and juggle time between different important competing things. And I appreciate that's still a frustrating answer, but I can assure you it's not for a lack of desire to be more responsive. It's just part of how we're trying to manage the difficult resourcing position that we're in. But I appreciate that may not be a fully satisfactory answer.
Right. And I don't think there's one other councillor disagrees with you there, Councillor O'Dowd, on that. They all feel your frustration. Councillor McElrath.
Thank you, Lord Mayor, and yes, I will try and be brief, and apologies I couldn't make the clinic, but it's maybe one quick question, Mark. First of all, thank you for your report. Just share the comments of other councillors here. Some good work in there, no doubt about that, but a lot of frustration as well, as reps with DFI, probably the one that I get frustrated most with. So I think that is important just to point out as well. Can I just say, Mark, last time the report came, I raised the issue of signage, warning signage, particularly junctions, crests, all that sort of warning signage. And as I travel around the province, it's not just Southern Division. I notice in so many areas that signage is overgrown. It's not visible, and I know there may be obligations on farmers and so on to maybe cut back some of it, but there's quite a bit of it's not. It's very clearly, the department's responsibility. So from a road safety point of view, I think maybe that's something that we should maybe devote a wee bit of money to, if we can at all. Which kind of leads me on to the second wee point, and again, it's around policy. And it's a situation where we have, for example, roads that are identified to us where there's multiple collisions. Thankfully, maybe not fatalities, but getting close to that.
And where it looks like a right turn box would be really important at that junction. And I have one that's identified really in my DEA at the minute that is a disaster waiting to happen. And I've already raised it with PSNI, but I'm raising it again just around the policy. When does the department deem it reasonable to look at the implementation of a right turn at a busy 60-mile-an-hour road, which is essentially most likely a 70-mile-an-hour road where vehicles are sitting in the middle of the road with nowhere to go if someone hits them. So it's just maybe around that, Mark. And I suppose my final wee point, and again, surround policy, and maybe Colin, you're here, maybe you can pick up on this one, but where we have a 90-day, I think it's a 90-day inspection for potholes on quite a few of our roads. And for most of the year, that's maybe I could live with that maybe for summer and so on. But when we enter the winter months, and for example, a road being inspected in mid-November, it's not going to be inspected again to mid-February. So you're through some of the harshest weather in the country. And I had one instance where after 80 days, a pothole appeared on a road, had been reported, is my understanding, but someone hit it and hit it quite badly. It was a fast stretch of road. It was the main Moy road, actually, out of Portdown. And obviously the department wouldn't stand over the claim because they said it had been the road had been inspected in mid-November, and this happened in early February. And I don't think that's acceptable. I'm not sure what other members think, but you know, in a situation like that through the winter, I think some of those busier roads should have a more routine inspection. And I don't know whether from a policy point of view that can be achieved, but
Thank you. Councillor McElrath, there's 3 questions in there, and I'm going to ask the you see the last one because it's a policy question. If you could answer that one for us, Mark. But you see the other 2, and members, I'm going to do this. If you have any specific questions to an area, I'm going to ask them to email you directly the answer rather than calling them in each time, because we need to move this on, because these green lights are just coming up question after question. Okay, you may not agree with me, but you know, that's what the DFI correspondence is for, members. Okay, so Mark, could you comment on that policy one, or yourself there? Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, so I'll do my best. You've heard us talk about limited resources. You've heard us talk about our limited service policy. And I think this is a good illustration of where we have adopted a certain threshold for intervention and a certain practice of doing things that, as Mark said in his opening remarks, we don't think it's good engineering practice to leave that road as long as we have to between inspections, and totally take your point that at different times of year, the inspection frequency in an ideal way would be adjusted, and that inspections would get more frequent in the winter. To put some numbers and facts around vacancies in this area, we should have somewhere in the region of 115 carriageway inspectors, and it's on that resource model that we have set the frequency for inspection on different categories of road. We actually have 78 carriageway inspectors, and we have vacant posts for the rest of it. So across the network, across 27,000 kilometres of road, we're not delivering the frequency that even our own limited service policy requires. And we don't really have genuinely, and despite an awful lot of searching, we don't have too many options to move people around into those roles because of the same sort of pressures we have elsewhere. So when we talk about limited service and the outworking of that, this is a good illustration of where, in order to make both the people and the financial resource last the year and be available for emergencies in February and March, we need to set a threshold for intervention that is higher than we would prefer. Because if we just addressed every defect as we found it, we would burn through the money by about August. We would have nothing left to pay for gritting and so on through the winter. And we don't actually have the capacity to deal from a staff perspective with that number of inspections in such a condensed period. That's not a good answer from an engineering perspective. It's certainly not an optimal answer from managing the risk that comes with that and managing the cost of public liability claims. But unfortunately, after 10 years of a limited service policy, the network has deteriorated to an extent that the defects can come up and be quite bad defects at short notice. As Mark has said, we would encourage anyone who finds a defect to report it, because every defect is examined to see if it's a significant or critical safety issue, and if it is, we will act on it within 24 hours in most cases. Unfortunately, it's not open to us to act on every defect that's reported in the same way, but that's just to try and illustrate what the practical outworking of limited service and resource pressures can lead to.
I appreciate that. Thank you. That's great. Alderman Baxter, could you unmute please and raise your question?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I have a couple of questions, and they are sort of around policy. First of all, can I just thank the guys?
Alderman Baxter, could you unmute? We can't hear you.
I have unmuted, Lord Mayor.
This is the problem we had last month as well. So I'm just going to, Alderman Baxter, we're going to try to come back to you. We can't hear you. Alderman Barr.
Thank you, Madam Lord Mayor, and thank you very much for the report, gentlemen. Sort of in your report, page 27, table 20, about accessible parking. Were it possible to get the legislation surrounding that there? I've asked a couple of times and I haven't got a response back. The query was basically about accessible parking for a resident, and the answer was no, but I see that someone somewhere has been able to get it. I've asked for the legislation and I've asked for the appeals process twice and I haven't got the response for it. I'm just wondering, how does one go through that process of appealing, and how does one actually ask the right question of the relevant person? Thank you, Madam Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Alderman Barr. Can we get a copy of that, Mark, without you having to come back in? Can you get that circulated? Would all members like that, or just, yeah? Okay, thank you for that. Are you content with that, Alderman Barr? Thank you. And if not, you can raise it under AOB again and, you know, next month. Pardon? Barry? I have another, no, I'll tell you why, folks. I have another 7 lights here. I can sit here, but everybody else can. No bother.
Thank you, Madam Lord Mayor. Just quickly, I know we do these once or twice a year, the workshops before, or the clinics. Would it be possible to even to have them quarterly? Thank you. That's as quick as it want to be. Thank you.
100%. Alderman Baxter, if I could ask you, would it be possible for you maybe to send your question through to one of our colleagues? Because they seem to be having a technical hitch here that they can't get. Can you shake your head? Yes, is that okay? Or no, it's not. Okay, well then we'll continue on and we'll see what we can do. Councillor O'Hanlon.
Yeah, thank you, Lord Mayor, and can I just thank Mark and the team for the report. I suppose it would be remiss not to see Kieran McKenna there from the section office in Armagh. Thank Kieran and the team. I think, Mark, you referred to the resurfacing schemes that happened in the Armagh area last year, and they're very much welcome. But the problem is, whenever you guys go in and do work, everybody else sees it and they say, I want it done to that standard. So I know there was particular investment in around the Derry Noose and Grange College Land area. It was particularly welcome. But as I said, more of that, please. Just briefly, Lord Mayor, there's one issue that keeps cropping up time and time again, and it's Scarvins Bridge. You'll know we've had many correspondence with it over the year, and if we can try and get that programmed in for some sort of works as soon as possible. But on that, just to express thanks to the team. Even in issues like whenever, and we mentioned about Salt Enough Network, times around funerals and stuff like that, they've been particularly helpful. So thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor O'Hanlon. Mark, can you follow up with that with Councillor O'Hanlon with regards to that Scarvins Bridge as to, is it on the schedule? If you could email him that, if that's on the schedule. Are you content with that, Councillor O'Hanlon? Thank you. Councillor Mulholland.
Thank you, Lord Mayor, and I'd like to thank the DFI team for their report as well. Just a wee quick question, and it is quick, on page 14 of your report for private street enforcement. One of the developments you have noted down there is Birchwood Manor. I'd just like to know, has there been a date set for that yet? As I know from several constituents that there were dates, but they were moved, and I just wondered, is there a concrete date set in place for the work in Birchwood Manor? Thank you.
Again, Mark, can you follow that one up with Councillor Mulholland? Is that okay? content with that. Councillor Ferguson, my sincere apologies. You should have been called in before Councillor Mulholland, but I omitted that, so my apologies. I'll call you in now.
Thank you, Lord Mayor, and thank you to Mark and his colleagues in DFI. This chamber will be aware of the Tier 3 prioritisation that was communicated to us for the A1 back in August, and that was due to funding, resourcing and transport sector commitments for the Climate Change Act. DFI will also be aware of this chamber and how they unanimously sought for urgent reprioritisation of Phase 2. But despite this high-level consideration, public inquiry and previous ministerial approval, we're still facing continual delays and barriers to progressing Phase 2. I've just a few direct questions. With the lift on external recruitment in the civil service for certain grades, will this positively affect the resourcing of major road projects, specifically the A1? If a minister was in place, would this help with the prioritisation classification of the A1? And is that the direction DFI are waiting on? And given the status quo, what year do the department see construction beginning on Phase 2? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ferguson. And again, can I ask Mark to follow up on that, please, directly to each of the DEA members? Right, because I mean, these were questions that were there for the clinic members, you know. Do you want to comment on that, or can we ask that to be right briefly? Okay.
So I'll deal with it briefly, and I'm very happy to write to you again with a more fulsome answer. The list of schemes was published in the order in which we expect them to have funding. So we took executive commitments and then city deals, and then to be blunt, we don't expect there to be money left over after that in the short term. So, for example, this year our capital budget had a shortfall of about 146 million. And so it's in that context that we're trying to path out the schemes that we think are most likely to be funded. In short, the lifting on resourcing restrictions won't help us because we don't have the money to fill our vacancies. So while I have over 450 vacancies in my group, only 38 of those are funded. The rest are notional vacancies that there isn't the budget to pay for. And that's directly related to the department's budget position. A minister certainly could change the order of priority. And I would expect any minister to have their own views on which schemes should be progressed and in which order. What we're trying to do is come up with sensible delivery plans in the absence of ministers and try and be transparent with folks around what we realistically expect to be able to deliver. In terms of a date for the scheme, Mark, do you happen to have a date based on current processes?
The contract documents are close to completion. You have decision into procurement. It'll take 3 years to build.
Okay, you content with that, Councillor Ferguson? Yeah, who's taken that? Yourself again? Okay, I thought you'd finished.
So the contract documents are almost complete. What we would normally do is then immediately put that out to tender, and following the tender, we would start construction. We won't put it out to tender until the funding for the scheme is confirmed, because the further we get away from the environmental assessments, the less robust and the less valid those are. So you need those to happen as close to construction as possible. So we're approaching the point at which any further work is dependent on the funding being identified. And that's the only thing essentially that we'll be waiting for.
Okay. Alderman Baxter, do you want to try again there? IT thinks to maybe fix the issue.
Can you hear me now, Lord Mayor? No.
Sorry to report, IT, that issue's not fixed. I'm just concerned that if it comes to, you know, where Councillor or Alderman Baxter does have to come in at something. So Alderman Baxter, you had indicated perhaps you're content to email at this stage, but we still need to fix. Yeah, okay, thank you. Councillor Hockian.
Thank you, Chair. I couldn't help but think that part of the job description for your year in office should be that DFA are in town, and it's usually a longer evening than it needs to be. That being said, we do have the right to raise in a public forum all our issues, and I think for our constituents to see that we are holding the bodies to account. With that in mind, I suppose I just wanted to, it was touched on about prioritisation, and that is obviously a key part of what you are doing under strained budgets. And with that in mind, I just thought I would raise something to try and focus your minds around prioritisation and how we would see it as opposed to yourselves. Part 3 of the Disability Discrimination Act in 1995, which I'm sure you're aware of, gives disabled people a right of access to goods, facilities, services and premises. One of the queries I've raised with yourselves over the past number of years was the width of footpaths in Lurgan, not just one footpath, all the footpaths. Some of them measure as little as 600 millimeters in width, made worse over the years by the fact that you've moved your street lighting from the grass areas onto the footpaths, which in parts makes it virtually impossible for strollers, buggies, wheelchairs, anybody with any kind of mobility issues. So while I'm not expecting an answer here tonight, I would ask you to really make sure that your priorities are indeed in line with legislation primarily, but also that you are cognizant of the fact of the impact of some of the decisions that are made when you turn down requests from elected reps. This one in particular has a huge impact on a large number of people in an area where it's just not acceptable, in my opinion. So while I would request that you look again at this issue, I do want you to be mindful of your responsibilities under these acts as well. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Hockey. And actually, that's not just the only area, you know, so that's a specific wide, you know, is there a criteria? Is that what you're asking for, Councillor Hockey? And
Thank you, Chair. The response that I was given was based on budget. I do actually have some of the legislation in terms of the EU and government legislation, not so much legislation, more guidance, where they talk about 1,200 upwards as a minimum requirement for wheelchairs to actually use footpaths. Now, I'm not sure what the legislation is in terms of your responsibilities, but I think you should be cognizant of the fact that wheelchair or disability action groups in particular call for a minimum standard. And when I asked for that in Lurgan, as I said, we're not talking about one street, we're not talking about one house, you're talking about upwards of 100 houses impacted by that. And as the Lord Mayor mentioned, it's not just in one area. So when you're prioritising these issues, I think you need to be aware of the impact on the communities. Thank you.
I think that's important. Mark, who wants to lift that? Yeah, thank you.
I'll have a go. I think the first thing I would say is accepted. I would say it's not acceptable for footpaths of 600 millimeters wide to be able to cater for wheelchairs and accessibility issues. But what we do whenever we do go in to design new footways or replacement footways is we would comply with the legislation. What it sounds like to me is that we haven't been into that area to consider whether there's been a need to redevelop and redo the footways. And if we did go in, we would be looking at the legislation to meet it. What we don't do is retrofit, regrettably, and that's down to resources and funding. We would love to do a lot more. So what we do is whenever we do work, we meet the current standards and the legislative requirements. And regrettably, we're not able to retrofit everything, but whenever we get there, we'll be in a position to improve it if we get there. So, sorry.
Thank you very much, Mark. And finally, at the moment is Alderman Moutray.
Thank you, Lord Mayor, and can I thank you for your attendance tonight? I'm sure you look forward to a night like this just as much as we do, but it is important that we represent our constituents, and this is a forum to do it. A couple of months ago, I was informed from DFI that I should address all material to the Secretariat email, and I have done that since. And I was told that it was checked on a daily basis, and I have outstanding replies from the 21st of September and the 4th of October. Now, rather than ask you to comment on them tonight, folks, can I just say, if I send these tomorrow, along with further communication around the meeting I requested on the Avenue Road in relation to safety at Kings Park School, will you look on them favourably, please?
Okay. Thank you for that, Alderman Moutray. And I suppose that just goes back to what Councillor O'Dowd had raised as well. Some things seem to be raised much quicker than others. Members, although Alderman Baxter hasn't had an opportunity, Alderman Baxter, do you want to try that again? Just to make sure.
Yep, hello? No.
We're hearing something. We're hearing something.
Okay. Hello?
I appreciate that, but we were just, I'm going to check Alderman Baxter's. Do you want to raise it then? Okay.
No, Lord Mayor, he said that he asked me to convey the fact that he will email road service directly.
Thank you, Alderman Moutry. I tell you, we were just trying to test his mic to see, because we may need, we'll definitely have to get that fixed. But at the minute, we'll just thank Colin, Mark, Kieran and Brendan again. Thank you so much for coming in at 4 o'clock. I found the clinic extremely useful. And I appreciate all the shopping list that I have personally sent back to yourselves. So I thank you for the time that you've taken to come in tonight. Appreciate that. Members, we are having difficulty here. So I've been asked to test Alderman Baxter and Councillor Nelson. Councillor Nelson, can I call you in to see to test whether your mic is working or not? If you could unmute.
Yes, can you hear me okay, Lord Mayor?
It's not coming through the main speaker. Alderman Baxter, can you try again for me?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
It's not coming through the main speaker, so I'm in the hands of member services to see whether we need to reboot the system or can we go ahead like this. Members, do you want the good news or the bad news? You're having your 10-minute recess early this evening. IT need to reboot the system because we need to be able to hear those members zooming in from home. Okay, 10 minutes. Thank you. Okay, members, IT has indicated that we are now live. All right, members, if you can take your seats. Members, we're now live. Thank you. Okay. As I was briefing everyone, my apologies to the members of the public that have been listening online. We had technical difficulties. They're not completely sorted, but we have in such a way that the two members that's zooming in online have a way of communicating with ourselves. So it's to get us going for the rest of tonight's meeting. So agenda item 5 then, could I have Councillor Hockian and Alderman Barry to propose and second the minutes of environmental services, please. Councillor Hockian is not here. Is there another? Could Alderman Barry, could you propose? Yep. Thank you. And someone that's on environmental services, could they second that? Thank you, Alderman Kennedy. Okay. Members, just all agree to adopt the recommendations contained within the committee minutes. Okay, all good. Thank you. Item 5.2, minutes of the Planning and Regulatory Services Committee. Could I have a proposer and seconder? Alderman Barr and Alderman Kennedy, are you happen to second? Yes, and members, I just want to raise an item of accuracy within that, with regards to I can't remember what the issue was, but it was under the 5G mask, and I wanted just added into the minutes that the those bringing it actually said that the policy directs masks away from residential properties and want to look at commercial properties, and that they try to stay away from residential sites. That I couldn't see was in the actual minutes, and to me that's very important going forward whenever there's other planning issues coming up with regards to 5G masks. Okay, so I just wanted that added to the minutes. Anybody else, any questions from planning? All good. Okay, thank you, members. 5.3, members, minutes of the Leisure Services Committee meeting. Councillor Ian Wilson, you happy to propose? Thank you. And Councillor O'Kane. Thank you. All right. And any issues, all agreed? Any issues to be raised? No, all good. Thank you, members. 5.4, minutes of the Economic Development and Regeneration Committee. Councillor Kevin Savage, you content? Thank you. Councillor Alexander, happy to second. Members, are we all agreed to adopt the recommendations? All good. Any issues to be raised? Nope, great. Thank you. 5.5, minutes of the Governance Committee meeting. Councillor Michael, happy? Okay, happy to. Okay, happy to propose. And Vice Chair Kyle Moutry, Councillor Kyle Moutry, happy to second. Thank you, members. Members, there's a light. We were on a roll there.
Just to propose, Lord Mayor.
Thank you, members. Okay, members, agenda item number 6, schedule of correspondence. 6.2, 6.2, sorry, 6.1, 6.2, 6.3 and 6.4 are all items for noting. Has anyone anything they wish to raise? All good? Great, thank you, members. And agenda item 7, I need a proposer and a seconder for the schedule of documents requiring corporate seal. Thank you, Alderman Moutry and Councillor McClelland. Thank you. Okay, members, moving on then to agenda item number 8, notice of motion. I've received a notice of motion from Councillor Radcliffe, and I am going to hand over to yourself, Councillor Radcliffe. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Lord Mayor. Madam Lord Mayor, it gives me great pleasure to propose this motion this evening. To me, this motion to erect a statue of our late Queen is simply an extension of the sentiments expressed by the Council on the 11th of September 2022. On that occasion, all corners of this chamber spoke of Her Majesty's incredible service to our nation. I believe that a life-size statue of Queen Elizabeth II provides this council with a fitting way to recognise that service. I want to make this case for why I feel this is necessary. As our nation's longest reigning monarch, our late Queen's marathon of service occupies a unique place in history and therefore deserves a unique recognition, as provided for in this motion. I invite members to consider with me the magnitude of 70 years service. It's hard to comprehend the amount of visits, events, conversations, speeches, and handshakes that make up 7 decades of unbroken service. The Queen spent 7 decades honouring her coronation oath and working for a better society. Not only is the length of service worthy of recognition, but the quality of her service should be remembered also. As public representatives, I believe there is no better example for us to follow than that of our late Majesties. The erection of this statue will be a constant reminder of the values of public service which we seek to uphold and promote. Queen Elizabeth II was one of a kind, and I believe she is deserving of a one-of-a-kind memorial. And what will be the erection of the first royal statue in this borough? Members will note that the stated location is not within Alderman Barry's or my DEA, but rather the city of Armagh. I believe that this is the most suitable location because the Queen and members of the royal family had a long and enduring relationship with Armagh. It was she who bestowed city status in Armagh in 1994. I further believe that this motion gives ABC Council an opportunity to set itself apart as one of the first regions of the UK to mark the Queen's reign in this unique way. In closing, the Queen's reign was marked with grace, compassion, and respect for others, and I trust that this motion will be handled in the same manner and that I can command support right across this chamber. Thank you, Madam Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Radcliffe, and I believe Alderman Barry, you're going to come in to second that, yes?
Thank you, Madam Lord Mayor. I am happy to second this motion this evening in the name of Councillor Radcliffe and myself. The late Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth was certainly a remarkable monarch. I think it's important to recognise the 70 years of her immense service, sacrifice and commitment to our nation, to the Commonwealth and indeed across the world at large, but especially locally in the city of Armagh within the ABC area. As many of us will know, Armagh was granted a royal charter by the late Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth in 1994, and the city status was officially reconfirmed in 1995. With Armagh City, which is the ecclesiastical capital, it is of the most historical importance and the seat of the 2 archbishops, the Church of Ireland and the Roman Catholic Primates of Ireland. On the 20th of March 2008, the Royal Monday service came to Armagh City, and it was with great respect that the late Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth, accompanied by the late Duke of Edinburgh, attended the Royal Monday service in the Church of Ireland St Patrick's Cathedral. On that occasion, she distributed coins to 82 men and 82 women, selected by the 4 main denominations in recognition of their work in the church and the community at large. And as Councillor Radcliffe has outlined, why we focus mainly on Armagh, the city. We believe because of the uniqueness of it and the sense of place and significance that it holds, I firmly believe that the late Her Majesty also believed this as well. Bestowing the city status on Armagh clearly has made it one of the most enjoyable small cities to visit across Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland. The city status has boosted tourism, it improved the local economy, it encouraged peace and stability not just within the city of Armagh, but throughout the wider area. And most importantly as well, it encouraged greater civic pride within the city of Armagh. And as one who served in the old Legacy Council, I could clearly see that quite regular in the council and the community events. Indeed, over recent months and years, we have had the pleasure of several members of the royal family visit areas across the council area. This is another sign, an indication of the high regard that we are held by the royal household, in my opinion. On the 25th of May this year, we had the newly crowned King Charles and Queen Camilla, who paid a special visit to Armagh City, and they visited the Armagh Robertson Library. They were greeted by the celebration of culture, song and dance. They were sampled the local food and drinks from our artisan food producers, which has promoted homegrown agri-food within the ABC area. And I can recall even one of the previous visits by the then Prince Charles to the palace in Armagh, where it was a cross-community event. And I always believed that there was a special relationship there with not just our newly King Charles, but with the late Her Majesty. And indeed, even on the 13th of September, Princess Anne visited the World Sheepdog Trials at Guildhall Estate in Dromore. This was clearly a strong relationship that we have with the royal family, and I believe they all hold Armagh City as a special place in their heart. In closing, Madam Lord Mayor, the late Her Majesty certainly stretched herself to promote peace in her own gracious way and manner. She was a firm believer in genuine reconciliation in Northern Ireland and prayed for it on a regular basis, as we're all informed. She also visited the Republic of Ireland, and clearly she was reaching out as neighbours to show respect across the islands. I fully recognise the respectful manner in which all parties in this chamber displayed when the late Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth and indeed the Duke of Edinburgh passed away, sadly, with it being the latter of last year. And this was greatly respected by me and others on this side of the chamber. I believe tonight that if we had a united chamber this evening, it would be a positive message to send out, and as a sign of our appreciation to the late Her Majesty, Queen Elizabeth. And such a memorial would be a constant reminder of her legacy to us in the ABC area and the special bond we had with Her Majesty throughout her reign over the 70 years. I am more content within this motion, and I'm happy for the officers to prepare a report, to look at the options, the costs, the budget proposals, and consult with the wider chamber in general and all the appropriate groups to make this happen. And I believe that that is the way forward. I believe this can be the start of something special, and that all 41 councillors can finally make a decision on this, what's best place to remember the life and legacy of Her Majesty, the late Queen Elizabeth. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Barry and Councillor Radcliffe. Just to let you know now, there's a number of people wishes to speak, and whenever everyone has finished speaking, I'll come back to you then to wind on your notice of motion. Okay, so Alderman Moutray, you're the first to have indicated.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Can I agree with the sentiment expressed by Councillor Radcliffe and seconded by Alderman Barry? Our party are content to support this proposal. The late Queen was many things in her 70-year reign, but one particular thing was, especially in the island of Ireland, was she was a peacemaker, and no better place than Armagh City for her reign to be acknowledged. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Alderman Moutray. Councillor O'Kane.
Yeah, thank you very much, Lord Mayor, for letting me in. As an elected councillor within Armagh City, with a mandate within Armagh City, I'd like to say, yes, everybody has a right to celebrate the culture. However, as an elected rep, we must ensure public money is spent fairly. I've been here from May time, and I have to say there's some fantastic work that was done here, and I do praise my fellow members, especially with, I've seen the work with children with special needs and things. But I've been disappointed in the last 2 weeks. This has actually turned into like a Lauren Hardy show. Last week we decided to light up a building blue and white. Within 48 hours, the hospital was flattened, killing thousands of children and innocent children and innocent people. This week, we are looking to build a monument with ratepayers' money. As I look around here, I see the officers. I work with the officers closely, and every time and there's some fantastic ideas. And then when they go to say, but it's the finances. It's the finances. But my colleagues here want to build a monument. So do I think that in the days of cost of living crisis, I think there's better ways of spending ratepayers' money these days. But again, we want to put a monument in Armagh City. We estimate the total spend for the Queen and it's Queen's 90th 70-year service, her passing and the King's coronation was over 300,000. I mean, and in a time where we're trying to make a saving, I believe in around 5 million. But again, we want to build a monument. I think the people within this room would need to get a grip of reality and see what is happening outside. So I hope it's not a case of unionists flexing their muscles with ignoring the ratepayers. And on this, I'm opposing this motion. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
And Councillor O'Kane, I'm going to call in Councillor Sarah Duffy, but I am deeply disappointed that Her Royal Highness, our late Majesty, the Queen of 70 years of dedicated service, and a terrorist attack in Israel is compared to a Laurel and Hardy show. Very deeply disappointed with those remarks. Councillor Sarah Duffy.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. While we recognise that there are many in our communities who feel a deep connection with the British royal family, as Councillor O'Kane has pointed out, there has already been over 300,000 spent on events linked to the royal family in recent times. At a time when we, representatives of the people of ABC, are being asked to make savings of up to 5 million, we have a responsibility to ensure that every penny is spent wisely and can be justified. This motion will cause many of our constituents to wonder who and what are the priorities for us as a local government body. Are we about providing services to those who pay rates? Do we want to ensure that our children grow up in a place where they have access to the best facilities? Or are we about issuing blank cheques for vanity projects brought forward by 2 councillors that were not even elected in the DEA they proposed this for? We cannot and will not support this motion tonight, and I will call on other members to remember the tough financial decisions we are being asked to make and consider the burden already on the ratepayers before agreeing this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sarah Duffy. Alderman Wilson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And firstly, just in response to what I've listened to, I think it is a travesty that these events have been linked. It's shocking, actually, to listen to it. And I mean, it's widely publicised. A simple Google, tragically, a simple Google would highlight the fact that there's been something like 550 failed Hamas rockets, and it's widely believed, and I'm quoting what I'm reading from numerous news websites, that it was a failed rocket that's very tragically hit the hospital in Gaza. So it's deeply depressing to learn about that. It's deeply depressing to learn of the loss of life in Israel and Gaza also. I mean, I'm unequivocal about that. That's the reality of it. I don't think the two issues can be combined tonight in any shape or form, and I'm sure Her Majesty, if she was still alive today, would share exactly the same view as that. So I want to put that firmly on the minute. Moving on to the issue at hand, fully supported as well. I don't think there's an issue with, regardless of who in the chamber raises. I don't think anyone can claim, via motion or anything else to have any particular hold on the Queen. So it really doesn't matter, Madam Mayor, where this sentiment is expressed from or what party expresses it. The fact is, huge section of this community held Her Majesty in very, very high esteem. And it's only but right that this is explored, and I'm very happy to see that it is explored in its fullest and most genuine sense. And I know what has also been raised, and I was a proposer of the motion for celebrating her Platinum Jubilee in recent times. All the more delighted that we were able to do that, given the fact that only a very short time later, Her Majesty's health did deteriorate, and the nation was plunged into that grievous period. So it was all the more special that we were able to, in the borough here, celebrate that, a momentous milestone, and that's what it was. And it really touched a lot of people that were able to open that grant scheme and have the event in Lurgan Park, and it was very well attended, and those street parties were so well attended, and people really did put their heart and soul into it. And as I said in press releases afterward, we're so glad we did, because it was a really fitting memorial to her. So I just want to put all those thoughts on the record, and I, as a member of this council, I'm fully supportive of it. As a previous Armagh City and District Councillor, I have an affiliation with Armagh myself, as do a lot of people in this council, and I'm sure a lot of ex-councillors as well. I can think of one in particular who was at the event some years ago when the city status was conferred. I'm sure he would only be too supportive of it as well. So for everyone in the borough, I think it would be a welcome thing to see fully explored, and what options can be brought back. I certainly would be keen to hear it. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Wilson. Councillor Alexander.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Thank you as well to Councillor Ratcliffe and Alderman Barry. My Alliance colleagues and myself would be happy to support this motion. 7 decades as the head of state is quite a remarkable achievement and absolutely should be recognised. We would be keen to hear the result of the report and understand potential options, potential costs, that sort of thing. But you know, it's absolutely right that a meaningful and thoughtful memorial akin to the Queen's contribution be placed in this borough. That's all I'll have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Alexander. Alderman Burns.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I am glad that the 2 members brought forward the motion tonight, and we would be happy to support it. I think anybody who's given 70 years of their life in public service deserves to be recognised. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Burns. Councillor O'Hanlon.
Thank you, Lord Mayor, for the opportunity to speak. In doing so, I recognise that there are many people in our community who held the late Queen Elizabeth in much respect and revered her. For many in the community that I represent, we recall her visit to Dublin in 2011, where she spoke in Irish, where she attended the Garden of Remembrance and bowed her head. And even in her speech in Dublin Castle, where she referred to, with the benefit of historical hindsight, we all see things that we wish had been done differently or not at all. And in taking part in the debate tonight, I want to be respectful and to those who proposed the motion and to the community they represent. Whilst not wanting to take away from what they suggest, my only issue is around cost and how the community or council can recognise the achievements and the service of the late Queen in a way, to me, that doesn't cost a significant amount of money. I'm mindful of many families who are going through difficult times, and we all know that through our work in our communities, but also in terms of the impact on budgets within council. So for that reason, I'll be voting against the motion tonight based on the issue of cost. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor O'Hanlon. Councillor Radcliffe, there's no more lights on, so I'm just going to hand over to you to wind on the motion. Thank you. Just wait.
Thank you, Madam Lord Mayor. I just wanted to point out one fact here, it's not a blank check. If Sinn Féin had read the motion, they would see in the last paragraph, we further propose that officers prepare a report taking this forward to include options for design, location, consultation with appropriate groups to identification of a suitable budget as part of the estimates process. But in closing, Lord Mayor and members, I would like to take this opportunity to thank the DUP, the Ulster Unionist Party, and indeed Alliance for their support. And I hope we can bring this motion to a positive outcome. And if I could ask for a recorded vote. Thank you, Madam Lord Mayor.
All right, thank you, Councillor Radcliffe. So members, we're voting on the notice of motion. So I'm going to ask yes, no, or abstain. So Councillor Alexander, and you'll have to wait till I call each person in individually.
Yes, Lord Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Armstrong.
Yes, Lord Mayor. Yes, Lord Mayor.
Alderman Barr.
Yes, Madam Lord Mayor. Yes, Madam Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Alderman Barr. It's just because it's a recorded vote. I had to wait till your face was on the screen. Sorry. Alderman Baxter.
Yes.
Alderman Baxter, can you shout?
Yes.
Members, do I have a consensus that a thumbs up to the Councillor Councillor Baxter is a yes? Yes, thank you, members. Thank you. Alderman Barry.
Yes, Madam Lord Mayor.
Alderman Burns.
Yes, Lord Mayor.
Councillor Donnelly.
Neil.
Can I make an assumption that was a no? Yeah, well, I mean, no, thank you. Councillor Paul Duffy.
No, Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Duffy. Councillor Sarah Duffy. Really don't.
No.
Thank you. Councillor Evans.
Yes, Lord Mayor.
Thank you. And Councillor Ferguson, have we got your light working?
Yes, Lord Mayor.
Glad we got that working for you. Councillor Flaherty.
Absolutely, I have no idea. Yes, Lord Mayor.
Thank you. Alderman Greenfield.
Yes, Lord Mayor.
Councillor Hare.
Yes, Lord Mayor.
Councillor Hockey. No, Lord Mayor. Councillor Hockeyan.
Oh, Lord Mayor.
Okay. Councillor Johnston.
Yes, Lord Mayor.
Alderman Kennedy,
Yes, Lord Mayor.
Councillor Lavery,
Yes.
Councillor Mackle,
No, Lord Mayor.
Councillor Ashley Mallon,
No, Lord Mayor.
Councillor Jude Mallon,
No, Lord Mayor.
Councillor McCartan,
No.
Councillor McConville Walker,
No, Lord Mayor.
Councillor McClelland,
Yes, Lord Mayor.
Councillor McElrath,
Yes, Lord Mayor.
Alderman Moutry,
Yes, Lord Mayor.
thank you, Councillor Moutry,
Yes, Lord Mayor.
Councillor Mulholland,
Yes, Lord Mayor.
Councillor Nelson, will you try to speak or thumbs up or down?
No, Lord Mayor.
Okay, okay. We're content with that. That's a no, folks. Okay, thank you. Sorry, I should ask an agreement. Is everyone in agreement with that? Yes, thank you. Councillor O'Dowd.
No.
Councillor O'Hanlon,
No, Lord Mayor.
Councillor O'Kane,
No, Lord Mayor.
Alderman Rankin,
Yes, Lord Mayor.
Councillor Radcliffe,
Yes, Madam Lord Mayor.
Councillor Kevin Savage,
No, Lord Mayor.
Councillor Kyle Savage,
Yes, Lord Mayor.
Alderman Wilson,
Yes, Lord Mayor.
thank you. Councillor Wilson,
Yes, Lord Mayor.
Deputy Lord Mayor's non-attendance, correct? Yeah, thank you. And myself is yes. Thank you. Members, just bear with us till we count this up. Thank you. So members, 25 yes, 15 no. Okay, so the motion has been carried, and because it's a recorded vote, members, I'm going to read the names. So those members that voted yes are Councillor Alexander, Councillor Armstrong, Alderman Barr, Alderman Baxter, Alderman Berry, Alderman Burns, Councillor Evans, Councillor Ferguson, Councillor Flaherty, Alderman Greenfield, Councillor Hare, Councillor Johnston, Alderman Kennedy, Councillor Lavery, Councillor McClelland, Councillor McElrath, Alderman Moutry, Councillor Moutry, Councillor Mulholland, Alderman Rankin, Councillor Radcliffe, Councillor Kyle Savage, Alderman Wilson, Councillor Wilson, and myself, Lord Mayor. Those that voted no: Councillor Donnelly, Councillor Paul Duffy, Councillor Sarah Duffy, Councillor Hockey, Councillor Hockian, Councillor Mackle, Councillor Ashley Mallon, Councillor Jude Mallon, Councillor McCartan, Councillor McConville Walker, Councillor Nelson, Councillor O'Dowd, Councillor O'Hanlon, Councillor O'Kane, Councillor Kevin Savage. Thank you, members. Okay. So members, now we're going into confidential business. So members of the public, we will be cutting the live feed. Could I have a proposer and a seconder to go into confidential? Thank you, Councillor Herr and Councillor Mulholland. ICT. let me know. We do have members 3 items of business in AOB. So we're now out of confidential business, members, and we have any other relevant business. We do have 3 items, 2 of which are over to Councillor O'Hanlon. Thank you.
Thank you, Lord Mayor, and I will be brief. First of it is in relation to, in recent weeks, it has been announced that Ireland and the UK have been successful in securing the Euros in 2028. As the borough and indeed Milford is home of the penalty kick, can we ask that officers in tourism and leisure bring forward a report as to how we can explore the opportunities and to try and promote that issue as part of something coming up in 2028. Secondly, in relation to Clay Lake in Katy, over recent days I've been engaged with Northern Ireland Water in relation to blue-green algae, and it has been confirmed by the Environment Agency that they're treating the issue there. I know there's the matters to go before Environmental Services in the coming month, but I'd ask that maybe consideration is given to bringing both the Environment Agency and NI Water before Council to discuss the issue, not just in Clay, but across the Council area as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor O'Hanlon. In response to your first item, Roger has said he'll be taking that up for you, and I believe that my understanding is that NI Water are with us in November, which is next month. So does that, are you content with that, Councillor O'Hanlon?
Great, yeah, thank you.
So one more item, and that's over to Councillor Kyle Moutry.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. My colleagues representing the Portadown DA will be acutely aware of the ongoing disruption to Brownstown Community Centre following the detection of Legionella on the 18th of August 2023. Since then, the shower facilities have remained closed for use of any sports teams on a weekly basis. Hanover Football Club have faced considerable challenges as a result, and this disruption and uncertainty has sent their fixture list into disarray. This is now the second time this has occurred on site since December of 2022. And can I just ask for an update on progress towards a permanent solution, or at the very least for a temporary solution that will allow the club to plan ahead in the weeks ahead and to communicate the issue with Mid-Ulster League representatives? This is a football club in my DEA that is deeply rooted in their community and has been for over 50 years, a club with a thriving youth academy and a newly established ladies team. They deserve assurances that this matter is being taken seriously and that a solution is being explored to end this 9-week disruption. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Moutry. And Councillor Moutry, are you content that I get one of the officers to contact you about that directly, or would you like a response to that tonight?
Yes, thank you, Lord Mayor. I just thought this was appropriate to raise this in a public forum, given that this has been quite a considerably long disruption. I'm content with the response, but I would like a meeting to be brought forward with the club to give them assurances in the week ahead.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Councillor Moutry, in your additional comments. Yes, I'll speak to relevant officers to ensure that happens.
Members, just before we conclude tonight's meeting, a number of you have said to me during the break, is this, the issues we're having with the IT system, is that going to come before the relevant committee? And I know that there is a lot going on to try to get this IT system sorted out. So I will ask on your behalf to ensure that that is brought to the relevant committee to see what we need to do going forward, because this has gone on a few months now and with committee, and if we can get that sorted out going forward. Is that possible, Roger? Thank you.
just to provide the assurance to members, I mean, it has been looked at, IT and the estates team are looking at the different things that are arising and trying to get whatever equipment needs to be replaced and repaired, sorted, Lord Mayor. So it is actively been worked on, just to give members that assurance.
Members, thank you again, and good night and safe home. Thank you.